The Hope Haven Animal Shelter was a symphony of barely contained chaos. The cacophony of barks, a relentless, overlapping chorus of eagerness, anxiety, and longing, formed the backdrop to a constant, almost frantic ballet of movement. Volunteers clad in branded t-shirts and worn jeans wove through the narrow aisles, their arms laden with food bowls, fresh water, and clean blankets. The air, despite the best efforts of an overworked ventilation system, carried the indelible scent of disinfectant, damp fur, and an underlying poignant aroma of hope, often tinged with despair. It was a place where dedication was palpable, where every wagging tail and grateful lick served as a tiny victory against the overwhelming tide of forgotten creatures, yet the sheer volume of animals, coupled with the always-present limitations of resources, meant that every corner, every kennel, held a story of both resilience and heartbreak. Amidst this bustling environment, in a kennel tucked away in the quietest, farthest corner of the main dog run, was Shadow. He was a magnificent German Shepherd mix, a creature of striking contrasts. His fur was a sleek obsidian black, reflecting the fluorescent lights of the shelter like polished obsidian. His build was powerful, clearly designed for strength and agility, yet it seemed diminished, almost shrunken, by the crushing weight of his fear. His eyes, a haunting shade of amber, possessed an intelligence that hinted at depths of understanding, yet they were perpetually clouded by terror, darting nervously, rarely settling on any one object or person. He was a recent arrival, found abandoned and severely neglected, bearing the physical scars of cruelty and the far deeper, invisible wounds of trauma. Shadow's fear manifested as extreme withdrawal, a profound retreat into himself. He huddled in the absolute furthest corner of his sterile kennel, pressed against the cold concrete wall, as if trying to merge with the very structure that contained him. He trembled constantly, a low, continuous tremor that shook his powerful body, rendering him a shivering mass of black fur and raw anxiety. He was unresponsive to every attempt at connection. Tempting bowls of the shelter's tastiest wet food, placed gently at the front of his kennel, remained untouched. Soft words, cooed by kind-hearted volunteers, seemed only to shrink him further into himself. Even the most patient, outstretched hands, offered with the gentle promise of comfort, were met with a violent flinch, a low, guttural growl that was more a whimper of terror than a sound of aggression. Human touch, it was clear, was associated with profound pain. His kennel, ironically, amplified his isolation. It was a standard-issue space, stainless steel bars separating him from the world, a thin plastic mat the only concession to comfort. The starkness of it, the echoing acoustics of the tiled floor, seemed to magnify every sound, every movement outside, transforming the shelter's usual hum into an overwhelming assault on his heightened senses. He hadn't moved from that corner since his arrival almost 3 weeks ago. Food bowls were pushed to him. Water was changed with long-handled scoops. Attempts to clean his kennel were met with such intense panic that volunteers often had to resort to quick, efficient maneuvers, leaving him in his self-imposed prison, unable to reach him for even the most basic care. The staff at Hope Haven, despite their immense dedication, felt a growing sense of frustration and heartbreak over Shadow. Maria, a seasoned volunteer with 20 years of experience, had tried everything from calming pheromone sprays to gentle classical music played softly near his kennel. Dr. Lee, the shelter's lead veterinarian, a woman who possessed an almost magical touch with even the most aggressive animals, found herself at a loss. During a recent examination, attempting to coax Shadow out for a routine checkup, Dr. Lee had managed to get a brief, fleeting glimpse of something unusual. As she gently tried to lift his head, he recoiled, but not before she noticed a faint, almost imperceptible scar on his left ear, partially hidden beneath his thick black fur. It was tiny, shaped like a stylized compass rose, its delicate points barely visible. She tried to touch it, wondering if it was an old tag injury or something else, but Shadow violently recoiled, letting out a sharp, terrified yelp that made her pull her hand back immediately. The scar disappeared once more beneath his fur, leaving her with a strange, fleeting sense of a mystery she couldn't quite grasp. The problem, however, extended beyond individual frustration. Hope Haven was perpetually nearing its maximum capacity. Every occupied kennel meant another animal waiting for a chance at life. Shadow, with his extreme fear and long-term unadoptability, was becoming a significant concern. Whispers, hushed and heavy with sorrow, began to circulate among the staff. Discussions about difficult decisions, about the grim realities of overcrowded shelters, about animals who simply couldn't be rehabilitated. The unspoken truth was that if Shadow couldn't be brought out of his shell soon, his future at Hope Haven, and indeed anywhere, looked increasingly bleak. The shelter's challenges were multifaceted. Funding was always a tightrope walk, balanced precariously between generous donations and urgent needs. The staff, already overworked and stretched thin, carried the emotional toll of dealing with countless traumatized animals, each story a fresh wound. The pressure to save as many lives as possible weighed heavily on everyone. Shadow's case, particularly acute and resistant, began to feel like an insurmountable obstacle, a stark reminder of the limits of their compassion and their resources. Every day that passed with him huddled in his corner was a day of lost opportunity, a day when another, perhaps more adaptable animal, might have found their forever home. In the quiet of the night, long after the last volunteer had left and the shelter was bathed in the dim glow of emergency lights, Shadow's internal world was a maelstrom of terror. The echoes of past trauma, sharp and relentless, bounced off the sterile walls of his kennel. He remembered rough hands, harsh voices, the searing pain of betrayal. His profound sense of isolation was not just physical, it was deeply ingrained, a conviction that he was utterly alone, forever trapped in a cycle of fear. His large body, designed for bounding fields and loyal companionship, was rendered useless by the invisible chains of his past. He longed for something, anything, to break through the impenetrable wall of his terror, but he knew not what it was. He was a prisoner within his own mind, and every passing moment seemed to solidify his conviction that escape was impossible. The desperate need for a breakthrough, a glimmer of light in his oppressive darkness, grew with each trembling breath, yet he held no hope for its arrival. The air in Hope Haven Animal Shelter was thick with a familiar tension, the unspoken concern for Shadow growing heavier with each passing day. The whispers about difficult decisions had become more frequent, carried on the air with the stale scent of disinfectant. Even the most optimistic volunteers found their hope for the traumatized German Shepherd mix beginning to wane. He remained a shivering black shadow in the corner of his kennel, a monument to unyielding fear. Every gentle approach, every offered treat, every soft word was met with the same violent flinch, the same guttural whimper that tore at the heartstrings of those who heard it. He hadn't eaten more than a few scattered kibbles in days, and his once powerful frame was visibly thinning. Maria, the seasoned volunteer, sat outside his kennel one afternoon, her eyes tracing the outline of his trembling body. Her usual indefatigable spirit felt chipped, worn down by Shadow's impenetrable fear. He won't let anyone in, she murmured to Dr. Lee, who stood beside her, clipboard in hand, a crease of worry etched between her brows. It's like he's built a wall around himself, higher than anything we can reach. Dr. Lee sighed, running a hand through her short, practical hair. His vitals are stable, barely, she said, her voice low. But he's fading, Maria. Not physically, not yet. But his spirit, he's giving up. If we can't get him to trust, to engage, soon. She didn't need to finish the sentence. They all knew the unspoken consequence of a rescue dog who couldn't be rescued. The shelter was at bursting point, and resources were finite. Compassion, though boundless, sometimes had to yield to cruel practicality. It was into this atmosphere of quiet despair that Lily Evans arrived. She was 12 years old, her presence a soft counterpoint to the shelter's usual clamor. Lily wasn't loud or boisterous. She moved with a quiet grace, guided by a collapsible white cane that tapped gently before her. Her eyes, though a striking shade of blue, held a unique luminosity, focused inward, seeing a world composed of sound and touch and intuition rather than sight. Lily was blind from birth, a fact that, to her, was merely a characteristic, like the color of her hair. She'd been coming to Hope Haven for the past 6 months as part of a volunteer program for children with disabilities, designed to foster empathy and connection with animals. She spent her time in the cat room, or gently grooming the calmer older dogs, her touch unusually sensitive, her voice a soft melodic hum that seemed to soothe even the most anxious creatures. This particular day, Lily was accompanied by her grandmother, a kind-faced woman named Eleanor, who usually guided her through the shelter. Eleanor had a soft spot for the unadoptables, the animals overlooked for various reasons, and she often encouraged Lily to spend extra time with them. Today, however, Lily paused abruptly, her cane tapping against the tiled floor in the main dog run, much to Eleanor's quiet surprise. "Grandma," Lily whispered, her voice barely audible over the general din, yet carrying an odd resonance. There's sadness here. A very, very deep sadness." She turned her head slightly, her sightless eyes seeming to peer directly into the far corner of the kennel where Shadow was huddled. "It's like a heavy, cold cloak." Eleanor followed Lily's gaze. "Oh, sweetie," she said softly, understanding immediately. "That's Shadow. He's been through a lot. He's very scared." Lily didn't respond immediately. She just stood there, her head cocked, listening. She heard the low, incessant trembling that no one else seemed to pick up over the other barks, the shallow, rapid breaths, the almost imperceptible whimpers that Shadow suppressed. She felt the palpable aura of his terror, a cold knot in the pit of her stomach that mirrored the one in his. Can I sit here for a bit?" Lily asked, her voice hushed, a hint of plea in it. Eleanor hesitated. They had been warned about Shadow's extreme fear, his unresponsiveness. They didn't want Lily to be disheartened, but she saw a quiet determination in her granddaughter's face. "Of course, dear," she said, pulling up a small, foldable stool for Lily to sit on, a respectful distance from Shadow's kennel. Lily sat down, her small hand resting gently on the cool metal bars. She didn't try to coax him, didn't offer a treat, didn't even speak at first. She simply sat, her presence a silent, unwavering anchor in the cacophony. She heard the other dogs bark, the volunteers move, the distant clang of a metal bowl, but her focus remained entirely on the silent, trembling mass in the corner of the kennel. She listened to the rhythm of his fear, the frantic drumbeat of his heart, the ragged texture of his breathing. She felt the vibration of his trembling through the floor. After a long moment, a moment stretched thin by the weight of Shadow's profound isolation, Lily did something entirely unexpected. She began to sing. Her voice, usually soft, took on a new quality, a fragile, almost ethereal melody that seemed to cut through the shelter's ambient noise. It wasn't a children's song or a pop tune. It was an ancient, almost forgotten lullaby, one her own grandmother used to sing to her, a melody passed down through generations. Its notes were long and drawn out, weaving a tapestry of quiet comfort and profound empathy. It was a wordless song, a pure expression of feeling, of gentle solace. The lyrics, if any existed, were lost to time, but the emotion carried by the melody was universal: tenderness, safety, unconditional love. The effect was instantaneous, yet subtle. The other dogs, usually quick to react to new sounds, seemed to quiet. Their barks softened, then ceased, replaced by a collective stillness. Volunteers paused in their tracks, looking around, their brows furrowed in shared wonder. The entire main dog run seemed to hold its breath, caught in the delicate web of Lily's voice. And then something truly extraordinary happened in Shadow's kennel. He had been trembling, as always, pressed into the furthest corner, his eyes squeezed shut against the perceived threats of the world. But as Lily's song began, a subtle shift occurred. His trembling, which had been a violent shudder, began to soften, to slow, to become less frantic. His ears, which had been flattened against his head in terror, slowly, almost imperceptibly, began to lift. He didn't move from his corner, but his head tilted, just a fraction of an inch, as if he were trying to discern the source of the unexpected sound, a sound so utterly unlike the harsh noises of his past. Lily continued to sing, her voice a steady, unwavering stream of pure, heartfelt sound. The lullaby flowed through the air, weaving its way past the steel bars, past the impenetrable wall of Shadow's fear, directly to something deep within him, something ancient and primal that yearned for peace. And then, very slowly, With an agonizing caution that spoke of immense internal struggle, Shadow uncurled himself. He didn't stand, didn't approach. He merely shifted his weight, his large body moving away from the cold concrete wall for the first time in weeks. His head remained low, his eyes still wary, but he was no longer pressed against the corner. He was facing outwards, towards the sound, towards Lily. His breathing, though still shallow, had lost some of its frantic edge. Maria, standing a few feet away, felt a lump form in her throat. Dr. Lee, witnessing this small, monumental shift, felt a prickle of tears behind her eyes. Neither dared to move or even breathe too loudly, for fear of breaking the fragile spell. Lily finished her song, the last note hanging in the air like a shimmering thread. Silence descended once more, but this time it was a profound, expectant silence, not one of despair. Shadow remained uncurled, his amber eyes still wary, now fixed on the source of the melody. He didn't rush forward, he simply stayed. No longer retreating, but listening. He had heard a sound that spoke to something beyond his fear, a melody that resonated with a lost sense of peace. The faint compass rose scar on his left ear, partially visible now that his ear was slightly lifted, seemed to pulse with a faint, almost imperceptible coolness. As if for the first time in a very long time he felt a flicker of direction, a tiny, almost imperceptible hope for true north. The atmosphere in the shelter, which had been so heavy with impending dread, now held a fragile, blossoming hope. Everyone knew, without a word being spoken, that something truly extraordinary had just happened. A connection, however tenuous, had been forged in the crucible of sound and silence. The question now was, could this fragile melody, this unexpected empathy, truly lead Shadow out of his self-imposed darkness? The melody of Lily's lullaby hung in the air of Hope Haven, a fragile, shimmering thread of sound that had done what no amount of treats or gentle coaxing could. It had pierced the impenetrable wall of Shadow's fear. The shift was subtle, but profound. He was no longer pressed against the cold concrete, but uncurled, his powerful body now merely tense, rather than trembling uncontrollably. His amber eyes, though still wary, were no longer squeezed shut. They were fixed, with an almost desperate intensity, on the small, blind girl. The faint compass rose scar on his left ear, partially visible beneath the fur, seemed to throb with a faint, almost imperceptible coolness, a silent signal of a lost internal compass that was now, however faintly, reorienting itself towards the unexpected true north of Lily's voice. Dr. Lee and Maria, along with several other volunteers who had gathered, held their breath, united in a silent, shared astonishment. The usual cacophony of the shelter remained strangely muted, as if even the other animals sensed the delicate balance of the moment. No one moved, fearing the slightest disturbance might shatter the fragile connection that had just been forged. Lily, oblivious to the watchful eyes, remained serenely calm. She sensed the shift in the atmosphere, the subtle lessening of the dog's overwhelming fear, through her acute intuition. She knew, without seeing, that her song had reached him. After a long moment of silence, she began to sing again, a different tune this time, but one equally imbued with tenderness and quiet comfort. It was a simple, repetitive folk song, the kind children sing, but in Lily's voice, it became a soothing balm, each note a drop of liquid peace. As the second song flowed, Shadow took another, even more monumental step. Slowly, agonizingly, he began to push himself forward. It wasn't a sudden lunge, but a gradual, deliberate crawl, his belly low to the ground. Inch by painful inch, he moved from the far corner towards the front of the kennel, towards the source of the melody. His head remained down, his tail tucked, but he was moving. The journey of a few feet felt like miles, each movement a victory against the invisible chains of his past trauma. His muscles, stiff from weeks of immobility, protested, but he pushed through, drawn by an irresistible force. He stopped just a foot from the kennel bars, his nose almost touching the cold metal. His eyes, still downcast, flickered towards Lily's form. He could smell her, the clean scent of laundry detergent mixed with the subtle, sweet aroma of childhood, utterly devoid of the harsh, threatening odors he associated with humans. He could feel the warmth of her small hand resting gently on the bars, a presence without pressure, an invitation without demand. Lily, sensing his proximity, stopped singing. She slowly, carefully, extended her other hand, holding it out, palm open, about 6 inches from the bars. It was an offering, not a demand. She waited, perfectly still, her breath even. Shadow's nose twitched. He could smell the faintest trace of something comforting, something safe. His eyes, finally, slowly, lifted to meet the space where Lily's eyes would be, finding only the serene expression of her unseeing face. For a long, agonizing moment, he hesitated, caught between the ingrained terror of touch and the overwhelming pull of her gentle presence. The compass rose scar on his ear seemed to prickle, urging him forward. Then, with a sudden, decisive movement that shocked everyone watching, Shadow reached out with his nose and gently, tentatively, touched Lily's outstretched palm. It was the softest of contacts, a barely there brush of fur against skin, but it was a touch, a connection, after weeks of absolute withdrawal. A collective gasp, quickly stifled, rippled through the onlookers. Lily's face broke into a radiant smile. "Hello, Shadow," she whispered, her voice overflowing with quiet joy. She didn't try to pet him, didn't pull her hand away. She simply let her hand rest, allowing the contact to be on his terms. This was the breakthrough. From that moment, a fragile yet profound trust began to blossom between them. Every day, Lily would come to Shadow's kennel. She would sit, sometimes singing her quiet lullabies, sometimes simply talking to him in a soft, soothing voice, narrating her day, telling him stories of her imagination. She never forced interaction. She let him come to her. Slowly, painstakingly, Shadow began to emerge. The tentative nose touches evolved into gentle nudges. Then, one afternoon, he pushed his head against the bars, allowing Lily to gently scratch his ears, right over the compass rose scar, which now seemed to glow with a faint, steady warmth. He didn't flinch. His body, still thin, began to relax, his trembling less constant. He started to eat, first only when Lily was present, then gradually, on his own. Dr. Lee and Maria were amazed. "It's like she speaks his language," Dr. Lee marveled to Maria one evening, watching Lily sitting by Shadow's kennel, reading aloud from a children's book in her gentle, melodic voice. "She sees him, truly sees him, in a way we couldn't with our eyes. She feels his fear, and she offers him something so pure, it bypasses all his trauma." The compass rose scar, though small, became a subtle focal point for both Shadow and Lily. When he was particularly anxious, Lily would intuitively move her fingers to that spot on his ear, and he would lean into her touch, as if the coolness of the scar, combined with her warmth, was a grounding force. For Shadow, it was a literal touchstone, a point of connection that resonated with something deep inside him, guiding him away from the overwhelming chaos of his past. For Lily, it was a unique identifier, a way for her to connect with him physically, to affirm his presence, even without sight. As weeks turned into a month, Shadow's transformation became increasingly evident. He no longer huddled in the corner. He would lie at the front of his kennel, his head resting on his paws, watching the shelter activity with newfound curiosity. When Lily arrived, he would offer a soft, low whimper of recognition, a sound of gentle welcome. He still wasn't ready to leave his kennel, but he was no longer trapped within himself. He was engaged, responsive, alive. The shelter staff, witnessing this miraculous change, were filled with a cautious optimism. The whispers of difficult decisions had faded, replaced by quiet murmurs of wonder. Shadow was still profoundly timid with anyone other than Lily, but his progress was undeniable. He was a different dog, a dog on the cusp of healing, pulled back from the brink by the extraordinary connection with a young blind girl. However, the challenge remained. Shadow needed a home, and a dog with such specific, profound trauma and an almost singular attachment presented unique adoption challenges. Even with Lily's breakthrough, he was not a typical adoptable pet. The shelter, while celebrating his progress, was still a temporary solution. The deeper question loomed: could this extraordinary bond, forged in the depths of fear and silence, truly transcend the boundaries of the shelter? and lead Shadow to a forever home where he could continue his healing journey? And what would happen if Lily, his anchor, his true north, couldn't be a part of that journey? The next step, the step out of the kennel, still seemed immense, a terrifying leap for a dog who had known only the confines of fear. The fragile hope that had blossomed around Shadow in the Hope Haven Animal Shelter was now a vibrant, insistent bloom. The once shivering mass of fear was now a dog transformed, at least in the presence of Lily. His amber eyes, once clouded by terror, now held a soft focus when she was near, a gentle light of recognition. The faint compass rose scar on his left ear, once a symbol of his lost direction, now seemed to pulse with a comforting warmth whenever Lily's fingers gently brushed over it, a silent anchor in his world. He would meet her at the front of his kennel, offering soft nudges and accepting her gentle ear scratches, a stark contrast to the unreachable Shadow he had been. He ate consistently, his powerful build slowly returning, and even engaged with the occasional soft toy Lily brought him, batting it playfully with his paw while she hummed. Yet the invisible barrier of his kennel remained. Lily could come in. He would lean into her touch, nuzzle her hand. But the moment the door was unlatched, the moment the world beyond the familiar confines beckoned, the fear would resurface, a tidal wave of panic that sent him scuttling back to his safe corner. He would tremble violently, his eyes wide with renewed terror, a low, guttural growl rumbling in his chest. It was a heart-wrenching sight for Dr. Lee and Maria, who understood that while Lily had unlocked his spirit, the final, crucial step of leaving the kennel remained an immense, terrifying leap for Shadow. The shelter, despite its best efforts, was not a forever home, and the unspoken deadline for finding Shadow a suitable placement loomed. The shelter staff had exhausted every traditional method. Behavioral specialists had observed him, offering advice that proved futile against the depth of his trauma. Sedatives, even the mildest ones, only dulled his senses without truly addressing the root of his fear, leaving him disoriented and still terrified. Every attempt to leash him, to guide him even a few feet outside his kennel, ended in violent resistance, sometimes even a lunge of desperate self-preservation. It became clear that for Shadow, the kennel was not a prison, but a perceived sanctuary from an infinitely more terrifying outside world. It was Lily, with her profound intuition, who recognized the true nature of his paralysis. One afternoon, after a particularly unsuccessful attempt by a seasoned trainer to coax Shadow out, Lily sat quietly beside his kennel. The trainer, frustrated, had left, muttering about the dog being too far gone. Lily, hearing the heavy sigh of Dr. Lee nearby, reached through the bars and gently found Shadow's ear, tracing the compass rose scar. "He's not just scared of outside," Lily whispered, her voice surprisingly clear and insightful. "He's scared of leaving you, Dr. Lee. He's scared of leaving this place. This is his safe place now, and he thinks once he steps out, he'll be alone again. He'll be lost." Dr. Lee knelt beside her, a sudden revelation dawning in her eyes. Lily, without sight, had seen the profound emotional connection Shadow had formed with the consistent, non-threatening environment of the shelter itself, and, more importantly, with Lily as its human embodiment of safety. "He's not just afraid of the unknown," Dr. Lee murmured, her voice laced with wonder. "He's afraid of losing the known. He's afraid of abandonment." This insight sparked a radical, unorthodox idea. If the kennel represented safety and Lily represented connection, perhaps they could combine these elements for the breakthrough. Dr. Lee, after a long discussion with Maria and the shelter director, decided on a last-ditch effort. They would bring the outside to Shadow, with Lily as his guide. The next morning, the shelter staff prepared. A large, enclosed outdoor run, typically used for larger, more active dogs, was chosen. It was quiet, surrounded by tall fences that offered a sense of enclosure, and filled with soft grass. More importantly, it was directly adjacent to Shadow's kennel block, within sight and sound of his usual sanctuary. They carefully constructed a small, temporary extension to Shadow's kennel, essentially a short, secure tunnel leading directly from his kennel door into the grass of the outdoor run. The tunnel was covered, providing a sense of dark enclosure, mimicking the safety of his crate. This was not a traditional leash training. It was an attempt to create a continuous, unthreatening path from his known safety to a slightly larger, yet still contained, safe space. The real key, however, was Lily. She was brought to the outdoor run an hour before the attempt. She sat on a soft blanket in the middle of the grassy enclosure, her small, collapsible white cane laid beside her. Eleanor, her grandmother, sat quietly a respectful distance away, observing. Lily began to sing, her voice filling the tranquil space with its familiar, soothing melody. It was the ancient lullaby, the one that had first pierced Shadow's fear, followed by the simple folk song, a tapestry of sound designed to envelop him in comfort. Inside the kennel, Shadow heard her. His ears perked, and he immediately moved to the front bars, whimpering softly, a sound of longing. He could smell the fresh grass, the open air, but more importantly, he could hear Lily's voice, a beacon calling him forward. Dr. Lee and Maria approached his kennel, their movements slow and deliberate. They spoke to him in soft, reassuring tones. "Okay, Shadow," Dr. Lee murmured, her hand gently touching the latch. "It's time, boy. Lily's waiting." They unlatched the kennel door and slowly opened it, revealing the dark, enclosed tunnel. Shadow flinched, his body tensing, but his eyes remained fixed on the direction of Lily's voice. He looked from the open tunnel to the shelter staff, then back to Lily's distant melodic call. It was a struggle, visible in every line of his powerful body. The ingrained terror of the unknown warred with the profound pull of the one person who had offered him solace. "Come on, Shadow," Maria whispered, her voice barely audible. "Lily's just outside. She's right there." Lily continued to sing, her voice a constant, unwavering invitation. She added words now, simple, repetitive phrases that echoed her earlier insight. "You're safe. I'm here. Don't be scared. Follow the sound." Shadow took a shallow, shaky breath. He looked one last time at the familiar walls of his kennel, then, very slowly, tentatively, he began to step forward. His front paws moved into the dark tunnel, then his body, inch by agonizing inch. He was visibly shaking, but he kept moving, drawn by the siren song of Lily's voice. The tunnel was short, only about 10 feet, but for Shadow, it was a journey across an ocean of fear. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, his head emerged from the end of the tunnel, into the soft, sun-dappled grass of the outdoor run. He blinked, his eyes adjusting to the bright daylight. He was still within an enclosed space, but it was open, vast compared to his kennel. His body tensed, ready to bolt, but then Lily's voice, clear and pure, enveloped him completely. She was still singing, her head tilted towards him, her blind eyes seeming to see him with an uncanny precision. She held out her hand, palm open, offering the same gentle invitation she always did. Shadow hesitated, his body rigid with indecision. The fear was immense, but the pull of Lily's voice was stronger. He took one step, then another, his paws sinking into the soft grass. He moved slowly towards her, drawn by an invisible thread. When he reached her, he didn't bound or jump. He simply collapsed beside her, his large body pressing against her small one, trembling. But this time, the trembling was different. It was the release of tension, the aftermath of a monumental effort. He rested his head on her lap, burying his nose in her soft clothes, his entire body heaving with a deep, shuddering sigh. Lily wrapped her arms around his neck, holding him close. She stopped singing and just held him, her small hands stroking his fur, gently brushing over the compass rose scar on his ear. Shadow, for the first time since his arrival, did not flinch or recoil. He leaned into her touch, into her presence, completely yielding. He was outside his kennel, in a vast open space, and he was safe. He was not alone. Dr. Lee, Maria, and the other volunteers watched, tears streaming down their faces. It was a sight of profound beauty, a testament to the power of connection that transcended sight, language, and trauma. The once terrified rescue dog, deemed too scared to leave its kennel, had found his courage, guided by the pure, empathetic heart of a blind girl. The breakthrough they had longed for, the final terrifying leap, had been accomplished. The question now was not whether Shadow could leave his kennel, but how this extraordinary bond would shape his future and the future of Lily, his unlikely guide to freedom. The next steps, though daunting, were finally possible. The sight of Shadow finally out of his kennel, head nestled in Lily's lap, sent a ripple of profound emotion through Hope Haven. It was a victory not just for the timid German Shepherd mix, but for every volunteer and staff member who had poured their hearts into saving him. Tears flowed freely among the onlookers. Dr. Lee, Maria, Eleanor, and countless others. It wasn't just a dog taking a step. It was a testament to the power of pure, unconditional connection. The very air in the outdoor run, once heavy with the tension of the attempt, now vibrated with a palpable sense of relief and burgeoning hope. The faint, steady warmth emanating from the compass rose scar on Shadow's left ear seemed to radiate outwards, a silent beacon of newfound direction. From that day forward, the outdoor run became a crucial part of Shadow's rehabilitation. Lily would spend hours there, sitting on her blanket, her gentle voice a constant, reassuring presence. Shadow, no longer a prisoner of his fear, would explore the boundaries of the fenced area, his movements still tentative but gaining confidence with each passing day. He'd sniff at the grass, chase a stray butterfly, and even, on occasion, offer a playful bark at a distant bird. But he always returned to Lily's side, pressing his head into her lap, seeking the comfort of her touch and the soothing rhythm of her breathing. He was slowly, painstakingly, learning that the world beyond the kennel bars wasn't a place of terror, but a vast expanse of possibilities, as long as Lily was his anchor. However, the reality of the shelter's capacity still loomed. Shadow's progress was undeniable, but he remained profoundly bonded to Lily and deeply wary of anyone else. He would still flinch from unfamiliar hands, retreat from sudden movements, and bark defensively at loud noises. He was far from being a typically adoptable dog, and the shelter knew a conventional adoption was unlikely to succeed. The discussions about his long-term placement, which had momentarily been silenced by his breakthrough, slowly began to resurface. The staff knew Shadow deserved a loving home, a stable environment where his healing could continue. But finding that perfect, unconventional match felt like an impossible task. It was Lily's grandmother, Eleanor, a woman of quiet wisdom and deep empathy, who began to entertain an idea that, at first, seemed audacious. Eleanor had witnessed the profound bond between Lily and Shadow firsthand. She had seen how Lily's unique perception, her reliance on sound and touch, allowed her to connect with Shadow in a way that visual cues often hindered. Lily saw past Shadow's physical manifestations of fear. She heard his unspoken anxieties, felt his trembling heart, and responded with pure, untainted compassion. And Shadow, in turn, had become Lily's shadow, her protector, her loyal companion, sensing her presence with an almost supernatural precision. He would follow the soft tap of her cane, his body subtly orienting towards her, always aware of her location. When other, louder dogs approached, he would subtly position himself between Lily and the perceived threat, a silent, unwavering guardian. One evening, as Eleanor helped Lily prepare for bed, a sudden quietness fell upon her granddaughter. "Grandma," Lily said, her voice small, almost hesitant. "Shadow. He misses me when I leave, doesn't he?" Eleanor sat beside her, gently stroking her hair. "Yes, sweetie, I think he does. You're very special to him. And I miss him," Lily continued, her voice gaining a touch of urgency. "He understands me. When I sing, it's like he knows what I'm feeling. And when he leans against me, I feel his heart, and it tells me everything. We belong together, Grandma." Eleanor listened, a profound warmth spreading through her chest. Lily, usually so self-contained, was expressing a deep, undeniable need. The raw honesty in her voice was undeniable. Eleanor realized that Shadow wasn't just a project for Lily. He was a missing piece of her world, a unique companion who understood her in a way no other had. And for Shadow, Lily was his guiding star, his only true north. The next morning, Eleanor approached Dr. Lee and Maria with a newfound resolve. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice firm. "Lily and Shadow, they have an extraordinary connection. It's not just a bond, it's a mutual reliance, a unique understanding. Lily sees him, truly sees him, and he, in turn, has become her eyes in a way. I believe Shadow needs to come home with us." Dr. Lee and Maria exchanged a look of astonished hope. It was unconventional, certainly. A dog with such severe trauma, a child with profound vision impairment. But the logic, when Eleanor laid it out, was compelling. Lily's gentle nature, her lack of visual triggers, her intuitive empathy, all aligned perfectly with Shadow's needs, and Shadow's emerging loyalty and protective instincts could provide Lily with a unique form of companionship and confidence she might not find elsewhere. "It's a huge commitment, Eleanor," Dr. Lee said, her voice laced with cautious optimism. "He'll need continued training, a very stable environment. And Lily, she'll need to learn how to guide him, how to be his advocate in the world." "We're ready," Eleanor replied, her gaze unwavering. "Lily has already shown us the path. She's already done the impossible. We just need to follow her lead." The adoption process for Shadow was unlike any other Hope Haven had ever handled. It involved extensive consultations with a specialized behavioral therapist, a vision impairment support specialist, and countless hours of training for both Lily and Eleanor. Shadow had to be desensitized to new sounds, new smells, the feeling of a harness, the rhythm of a leash. The training focused on communication through touch, sound cues, and Lily's unwavering voice. Lily learned how to command him gently, how to interpret his subtle signals, how to navigate their world as a team. The compass rose scar on Shadow's ear became an almost literal point of reference during their training sessions, a silent touchstone for Lily's guiding hand. The day Shadow was officially adopted was a day of quiet celebration at Hope Haven. He walked out of the shelter on a leash, led by Lily, his tail giving a tentative, almost imperceptible wag. He was still wary of the bustling world outside the shelter's doors, but he was no longer cowering. His eyes, though still scanning, held a newfound curiosity, and his body, though still tense, no longer trembled with unadulterated fear. He glanced back at Dr. Lee and Maria, offering a soft whimper of farewell, a silent acknowledgement of the safe haven they had provided. Then, he turned his head, nudged Lily's hand, and continued forward, his pace matching hers, their combined steps a rhythmic, hopeful beat. Life at Lily and Eleanor's home was a delicate dance of adjustment. Shadow's journey was far from over. New sounds, unfamiliar smells, and unexpected encounters would still trigger moments of anxiety. But now, he had a home, a safe space defined by Lily's unwavering presence. He had his own soft bed, a sunbeam to bask in, and a quiet enclosed yard where he could run freely, his powerful legs finally stretching, unburdened by fear. Lily's voice, a constant melody of comfort and guidance, filled their home. She would sing to him when he was restless, read to him when he was calm, and simply talk to him, narrating the small, beautiful details of their shared world. Shadow, in turn, transformed completely in her presence. He became her loyal companion, her protector. He sensed her every mood, her slightest shift in emotion. He would lie by her feet while she read Braille, his head resting on her lap, a silent guardian. When they went for walks in their quiet neighborhood, Shadow would walk confidently beside her, his body a solid presence, his ears perked, his senses attuned to the world on her behalf. If an obstacle appeared, he would subtly guide her around it. If a stranger approached too quickly, he would position himself protectively between Lily and the perceived threat. A low, rumbling growl, a quiet warning. The compass rose scar on his ear, once a symbol of his lost direction, had now found its meaning. It was the point of connection, the tactile map that allowed Lily to navigate his comfort, his joy, and his fleeting anxieties. It was a silent testament to their unique bond, a reminder that even the most broken compass could lead to a beautiful, unexpected true north. One particularly sunny afternoon, a few months after his adoption, Lily and Shadow were playing in their backyard. Lily was singing a new, joyful tune, her voice clear and strong. Shadow, robust and vibrant, was bounding around her, his tail wagging furiously, a sight that would have been unimaginable just a few months prior. He playfully nudged a soft ball towards her, then nudged her hand, inviting her to throw it again. For the first time, Dr. Lee and Maria, who had come for a visit, saw Shadow not just as a healed rescue dog, but as a dog utterly free, truly happy, his past trauma no longer defining his present. His laughter was silent, but his joy was undeniable. Eleanor watched them, a profound gratitude swelling in her heart. She knew that the rescue of Shadow was not just about saving an animal. It was about the profound healing that occurred when two unique souls, seemingly broken in different ways, found each other and completed their individual maps to a shared, joyful destination. The unseen roots of their connection had finally bloomed, painting a vibrant picture of resilience, love, and the boundless potential of an unexpected true north. If this story stirred your heart, if it reminds you that courage can alter destinies, and that light always finds a path even in the deepest darkness, please leave a comment. Share this story with those who need inspiration. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss upcoming narratives that delve into the profound human spirit and the power of unseen heroes. Thank you for joining our journey. The vibrant tapestry of Lily and Shadow's life together, now firmly woven into the fabric of their quiet neighborhood, was a testament to the profound, almost mystical connection that transcended conventional understanding. Shadow, once a prisoner of his own terror, had blossomed into a magnificent, confident companion, his sleek black fur gleaming, his powerful build restored by consistent nourishment and boundless affection. His amber eyes, no longer clouded by fear, held a deep, unwavering loyalty as they constantly scanned the world on Lily's behalf. The faint compass, rose scar on his left ear, now a tactile beacon for Lily's guiding touch, seemed to vibrate with a constant, reassuring warmth, guiding them both through the complexities of a sighted world. Their daily walks became a quiet ballet of synchronized movement. Lily, with her white cane tapping rhythmically, would hum softly, her melodious voice a gentle counterpoint to Shadow's soft panting and the rhythmic click of his paws on the pavement. He was her constant guide, subtly nudging her away from obstacles, stopping patiently at curbs, and even gently leaning into her when strangers approached too quickly, a silent, protective barrier. He seemed to possess an uncanny ability to anticipate her needs, a sixth sense born from their deep bond. If she dropped something, he would pick it up. If she hesitated, he would offer a comforting nudge of his nose. They were a singular unit, a testament to what unwavering trust and profound empathy could achieve. The news of Shadow's extraordinary transformation and the unique bond he shared with Lily began to spread beyond their immediate community. Local news channels, always hungry for heartwarming stories, picked up on their journey from a small feature to a full-blown documentary. The footage of Shadow's initial terror in the kennel, juxtaposed with clips of him now confidently guiding Lily through a park, was incredibly powerful. The narrative of the blind girl whose song drew a traumatized dog from the depths of despair resonated deeply with audiences. The compass rose scar on Shadow's ear became a symbol recognized by viewers, a visual representation of his journey from lost to found, from fear to faithful companionship. This widespread attention led to a flurry of invitations. Hope Haven Animal Shelter, now celebrated for its perseverance, received a surge in donations and a renewed interest in adopting animals with special needs. Dr. Lee and Maria were inundated with requests for interviews, always eager to share Lily and Shadow's story as a beacon of hope. They spoke eloquently of the power of patience, empathy, and the unique ways in which animals can heal and teach us. One particularly significant invitation arrived from the National Service Dog Training Academy, a prestigious institution renowned for its rigorous training programs for guide dogs, assistance animals, and emotional support companions. Their director, a stern but compassionate woman named Dr. Anya Sharma, had been captivated by Shadow and Lily's story. She saw in Shadow not just a recovered trauma dog, but a creature of extraordinary untapped potential. She believed that with specialized training, Shadow could become a certified service dog, providing Lily with an even greater level of independence and support, allowing their unique connection to be formally recognized and utilized to its fullest extent. The proposal was presented to Eleanor with cautious optimism. "It's an intensive program, Eleanor," Dr. Sharma explained during a virtual meeting, her voice calm and authoritative. "Both Lily and Shadow would need to participate. It's not about fixing Shadow, but about honing his natural protective instincts, teaching him specific commands, and strengthening his partnership with Lily in a structured way. It would mean several months at our facility, away from your home." Eleanor hesitated. The thought of uprooting Lily and Shadow, even for such a beneficial cause, was daunting. Lily, sensing her grandmother's apprehension, quietly reached for Shadow's ear, her fingers tracing the compass rose. Shadow leaned into her touch, offering a soft sigh. "Grandma," Lily said, her voice clear and resolute. "Shadow and we're a team. This isn't just about him learning. It's about us learning to be even better together. We'll be helping other dogs like Shadow, won't we?" she asked, her head turning towards Dr. Sharma, an uncanny intuition guiding her words. Dr. Sharma smiled, genuinely touched. "Yes, Lily," she confirmed. "Your story, your partnership, could inspire countless others. You would be pioneers." Lily's unwavering conviction, combined with Eleanor's profound trust in her granddaughter, sealed the decision. The journey to the National Service Dog Training Academy began a few weeks later. The departure from their home was difficult, particularly for Shadow, who still carried a deep-seated fear of unfamiliar environments. But Lily was his constant, unwavering anchor. She sang to him throughout the long car ride, her voice a lifeline that kept his anxiety at bay. When they arrived at the sprawling academy grounds, a place filled with new sounds, new smells, and countless unfamiliar faces, Shadow pressed himself tightly against Lily's side, his body trembling. Their time at the academy was rigorous, challenging, and profoundly transformative. Shadow, under the expert guidance of the trainers, learned a myriad of new commands. Forward, stop, left, right, find the door, find the chair. He learned to identify obstacles with his nose and gently guide Lily around them, to alert her to sounds she might miss, to navigate crowded spaces with unwavering focus. The trainers were astonished by his intelligence and his profound dedication to Lily. His protective instincts, once a manifestation of his trauma, were now channeled into focused, purposeful guidance. The breakthrough moments came not in grand leaps, but in quiet, everyday interactions. There was the day Shadow, in a simulated street environment, gently pulled Lily back from a phantom obstacle before the trainer even gave a command, anticipating her need. There was the moment he lay quietly under a table in a bustling cafeteria, completely relaxed, his paw resting reassuringly on Lily's foot. And always, the compass rose scar on his ear remained a constant point of connection, Lily's fingers intuitively finding it during moments of comfort or reassurance. It was their secret language, a silent affirmation of their unique bond. Lily, too, excelled. Her natural empathy and acute hearing allowed her to pick up on Shadow's subtle cues with remarkable speed. She learned to trust him implicitly, to feel the nuanced shifts in his body language, to rely on his keen senses as her own. She navigated the academy's complex grounds with an unprecedented freedom, her confidence soaring. She became an eloquent advocate for service animals, speaking to visiting groups with a captivating blend of innocence and wisdom. The final day of their training was marked by a formal graduation ceremony. Dr. Sharma, addressing a packed auditorium of trainers, staff, and proud families, spoke passionately about Lily and Shadow. "We have witnessed something truly extraordinary here," she declared, her voice filled with emotion. "Shadow, a dog once deemed irredeemable, has, through the power of one child's unwavering love and unique empathy, become a beacon of hope. And Lily, through her profound connection with Shadow, has discovered a level of independence and courage that will inspire us all. They are not just a girl and her dog. They are a testament to the fact that the deepest bonds are forged not by sight, but by heart, and that true guidance often comes from the most unexpected places." As their names were called, Lily and Shadow walked onto the stage, a perfect picture of synchronized grace. Shadow wore a new, specially fitted service dog harness, gleaming against his black fur. Lily, holding his lead with a confident hand, beamed, her face radiant. Dr. Sharma handed Lily a certificate, and then, in a spontaneous gesture, reached out and gently stroked Shadow's head, her fingers lingering, almost reverently, over the compass rose scar on his ear. Lily leaned down and hugged Shadow fiercely, burying her face in his fur. Shadow, in turn, nudged her hand, then gently licked her face, a silent language of profound devotion. He was no longer the scared dog hiding in a kennel. He was a beacon of freedom, a symbol of hope, and, most importantly, Lily's loyal, unwavering compass home. Their journey, once marked by fear and isolation, was now a shining example of transformation, proving that the most profound rescues often work both ways. The once terrified Shadow was no longer defined by his past. His sleek black fur gleamed under the sun, his powerful body moving with a fluid grace that spoke of boundless confidence and deep contentment. His amber eyes, once haunted, now held a bright, alert intelligence, constantly attuned to the world, especially the presence of Lily. The faint compass rose scar on his left ear, a tactile map for Lily's gentle fingers, no longer merely pulsed with warmth. It seemed to radiate a quiet energy, a symbol of a life that had found its unwavering true north. Lily, now a vibrant 14-year-old, walked with an easy confidence that belied her blindness. Shadow was no longer just a service dog. He was an extension of her own senses, a loyal, intuitive partner in a dance that seamlessly navigated their world. They moved as one, a rhythmic harmony of soft paw steps and the gentle tap of a white cane. Lily's melodic hum, a constant soundtrack to their shared adventures. Shadow would instinctively guide her around unexpected obstacles, alert her to approaching people, and even, with a soft nudge, direct her hand to a fallen leaf or a blooming flower, inviting her to experience the world through touch and scent. Their bond was a living testament to the extraordinary possibilities that blossom from profound empathy and unconditional love. Their story, already a local sensation, had expanded into a national phenomenon. The documentary about their journey, The Compass Home, captivated millions, sparking a wave of renewed interest in adopting animals with special needs and supporting service dog programs. Hope Haven Animal Shelter, once struggling with capacity, was now thriving, receiving an unprecedented surge in donations and a waiting list of volunteers inspired by Lily and Shadow's tale. Dr. Lee, Maria, and Eleanor often found themselves sharing their insights at conferences and workshops, advocating for trauma-informed animal care and the unique benefits of human-animal bonds, particularly for individuals with disabilities. Lily and Shadow, now celebrated advocates, dedicated a significant portion of their time to the Compass Rose Foundation, an organization they had co-founded with Eleanor's guidance. The foundation focused on two core missions: providing financial assistance and specialized training for individuals with disabilities to adopt and train rescue dogs, especially those with past trauma, and establishing outreach programs that brought therapy dogs into schools for visually impaired children. Lily, with Shadow always by her side, became an eloquent and inspiring speaker. Her voice, once used to coax a trembling dog from a kennel, now resonated with conviction, sharing their story of resilience, trust, and the profound joy of finding connection in unexpected places. She spoke of how Shadow had not only given her independence, but had opened her eyes to a deeper, more empathetic way of experiencing the world. Shadow, in turn, would quietly rest his head on her lap during her speeches, his calm presence a powerful, silent affirmation of her words. Their work led them to a particularly poignant moment on a bright spring day. They visited a local elementary school, a place filled with the joyful, sometimes overwhelming sounds of children. Lily and Shadow were there to meet a young boy named Daniel, who, like Lily, was blind. Daniel was withdrawn, struggling to connect, his world feeling smaller and more isolating with each passing day. He sat huddled in a corner of the school library, a stark echo of Shadow's own past. Lily, guided by Shadow, approached him slowly. Shadow, sensing the boy's fear, moved with a gentle softness, his tail low but not tucked. Lily sat beside Daniel, and after a moment of quiet, she began to sing. It was the ancient lullaby, the very melody that had first reached Shadow, now flowing from her lips with a newfound depth of understanding. As her voice filled the library, Shadow did something remarkable. He gently nudged Daniel's hand with his wet nose, then, very carefully, pushed his head into the boy's lap. Daniel stiffened, then, slowly, tentatively, reached out. His fingers, trembling slightly, found Shadow's ear, tracing the faint outline of the Compass Rose scar. A tiny gasp escaped Daniel's lips. He didn't know what the mark was, but he felt the gentle warmth, the rhythmic thrum. Lily finished her song. "His name is Shadow," she whispered to Daniel. "And this," She guided Daniel's hand back to the scar on Shadow's ear. This is his special mark. It's like a compass. It helps him find his way home. And it helps him know he's safe. With me. Daniel, for the first time, looked up, his sightless eyes wide, a flicker of something akin to hope in their depths. He reached out and wrapped his arms around Shadow's neck, burying his face in the dog's fur, just as Shadow had once done with Lily. Shadow leaned into the embrace, offering a soft, comforting sigh, his body relaxing into the boy's touch. Watching the scene unfold, Dr. Lee and Maria, who had accompanied Lily, felt tears stream down their faces once more. It was a full circle, a living, breathing testament to the ripple effect of kindness and courage. The rescue dog, once too scared to leave his kennel, had not only found his true home, but was now helping another lost soul find his own compass. The story culminates on a quiet evening in Lily and Eleanor's living room. Shadow lay stretched out on the rug by Lily's feet, his breathing slow and even. Lily sat on the couch, reading a braille book, her fingers gracefully gliding across the raised dots. She reached down, her hand finding Shadow's ear, her thumb gently caressing the compass rose scar. She felt its familiar warmth, a constant, comforting presence. "You know, boy," Lily murmured softly, her voice filled with a profound sense of gratitude. "You really are my true north. You showed me that sometimes the best way to see the world is with your heart." Shadow stirred, nudging her hand with his nose, then let out a soft, contented sigh. He was home. He was loved. And he had found his purpose. The echoes of fear had long faded, replaced by the symphony of a life truly lived, guided by the unseen roots of love and an unwavering compass that always pointed home. If this story stirred your heart, if it reminds you that courage can alter destinies, and that light always finds a path even in the deepest darkness, please leave a comment. Share this story with those who need inspiration. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss upcoming narratives that delve into the profound human spirit and the power of unseen heroes. Thank you for joining our journey.